Good afternoon, Saturday the 23rd of November. Time for a bit of a change of track. I'm going to try out something that I don't do very often, and perhaps this is a little bit new. When I'm talking, I'm really going to be talking about things that I would consider to be both spiritual and, I suppose, to some extent, faith based. I hate to use the word religious because what I'm going to talk about really, I don't think has anything to do with any particular religion, denomination, faith, or affiliation. You know full well I consider myself to be a Christian and I seek to follow Jesus Christ. I've said that to all of you, and you also all know that I do not attend any form at the moment of religious or denominational worship on any day of the week. So I thought I'd just make that clear. Now, obviously, if this is not something that you are not interested in, then I'm sure you'll just come off the video and maybe move on to something else. Okay, so I know this is not going to interest everybody, but there are some points I just have been thinking about a lot, and I kind of just wanted to share it with people who view my channel. I had an experience, I had lots of them, but this one was kind of spiritual. I was just making my tea. I'm actually going to pour it now. Okay, I'm going to pour my tea now. You might even hear it pouring. Look, the sound of pouring tea. Perhaps tea could be spiritual. I don't know. Do you think tea might prompt spirituality and experiences? Look, I'm trying to be a bit low key about this, right? So I've got to look away from the screen because otherwise, this milk is probably not going to end up in the top of this lovely mug. Here we go. A bit of physical action. There you go. Fluid out, downwards, and then mix with tea. Oh, beautiful. It's looking a lovely colour. I won't move the camera to show you the colour, but basically, the stronger, the better. By the way, if you happen to be a Methodist, and I have a lot of respect for Methodists, once on UK Methodists there was a brilliant chart that they put with colour of tea that you like, yeah, so that you could work out what was your favourite, the strongest tea. And I think somewhere at the top they put something like John Wesley Super Strength, and it was practically the colour of road tar. Good day to you, and let me just have a quick sip. Wet the old whistle, yes, and I love tea, and yes, I am British, but even I remember tea did not originate in Great Britain. Ah, beautiful. Okay, having wet the whistle. Yes, I was making this tea, and why I'll say I had a kind of momentary spiritual experience was because a feeling of love instantly swept over me for my wife. Oh, by the way, I just looked to one side. If you can hear a cat out there, I love cats as well. It's a little black cat with a little collar on. Cat's fine, but he or she keeps wanting to come in through our cat flap. Our older cat, poor old Bella, black and white's guarding it like, oh, you're not coming in here, I live here. And there's been a few hissing matches so far, even though this cat's on the other side of the glass. But going back to what I said, yeah? Spirituality and love. To me, they're the same thing. They're absolutely, ultimately connected. They're the same thing, and they're the same thing for everybody. I suddenly felt, for that really brief moment of thinking, and in thinking, loving, I felt amazing. I really did. and it's still kind of buzzing and pulsating and going through me, and it's like the feeling is warming me. Those of you, and I hope many, many of you who have that feeling, know, as I'm sure you do, that it's beautiful. It comes from almost, I think, a spiritual place where we are able to empathise. Oh, by the way, that cat's black now and it's up on the windowsill. Unfortunately, the door is closed and it's standing parallel with our cat. But let's get back to this lovely feeling. Eh? And cats make me feel nice as well, by the way. Yeah. So it comes from this ability to empathise. It comes from, I guess, being willing to give out and willing to take in. It's really, really strong, isn't it? Yeah. I've talked previously on other videos that have even vaguely involved politics, about where the feeling of hate and evil comes from. Yeah? There's an awful lot of that about, don't you think? Now look, I'm not going as I didn't before. I'm not going to start going, it's demonic. But I think there is something spiritual in it, for want of a better word. Yeah? And when I felt that love, that kind of communication, for want of a better word, when I felt it, I had this feeling of almost being physically drawn up. Yeah? A feeling of being physically drawn up, not pushed down. As I say, pretty much everything relates to politics, I guess. But why not vote for a society in which everyone can be drawn up? Yeah? Nobody needs to be pushed down anymore. That seems a kind of spiritual evil, to push people down. I noticed, and I guess I kind of in the end bring everything a little bit back to reality, but then again, maybe it's right that I do. Yeah. I noticed when Boris Johnson would not apologise for his comments about Muslim women wearing burqas looking like letterboxes or bank robbers. And I noticed that also when he didn't say a word about him calling gay people tank-topped bum boys, and his justification rather than an apology for the pickaninnies waving flags with watermelon smiles, apparently something he wrote in the Telegraph, I now find out, yeah, he justified it by saying, journalistic license, if you'd read it in context, I was just trying to be a good journalist. Right, okay, so all those things out of the way, let's go back to what I'm really getting at here, okay? It's great to be motivated by love. It's great to be motivated by compassion. It's wonderful. It encompasses. Yeah, there's bad stuff out there. Of course there is. But we can do something. Those of us who love, and again that famous speech by Chaplin, only the unloved and the unnatural hate. What a wonderful speech. Look, we can be motivated by love. And in doing that, we don't make ourselves great at the expense of making others smaller. I notice with so many apparently powerful people, particularly like Trump, who's always bigging himself up and being, like a seriously bright guy, yeah? He's always bigging himself up. The Trump thing where he mocked mocked the disabled reporter, where he did that, as if then to say, well, actually, you see me, I'm a great white guy. I'm a great white guy. I'm a team player. I'm really good. I'm really big. Yeah, that comes from a kind of evil, doesn't it? Yeah, him making himself look great by treading on everybody else. Let me just take this a tiny bit further and then I will conclude, okay? The God I believe in pulls people up, rescues them from even themselves. I'm not a great one for, miracles occurring in every time and every place all the time. Yeah? I generally don't believe in an interventionist God because, like it's said on that famous film, Bruce Almighty, I always remember this scene where he as God intervenes and it's a romantic evening, yeah? And he wants to feel real romance with this woman, he's whatever, and they're standing on a balcony, so he's being God, he just decides that he's going to bring the moon further down, yeah? And of course that's great, and they all think, wow, and he as God stroke Bruce thinks fantastic, this lovely romantic moon. And then in the news, the day after or minutes later, you find that there are floods, earthquakes, natural disasters happening because he's altered the orbit of the moon. Yeah, generally why I don't, in all honesty, believe in an interventionist God. I'm not saying that God couldn't intervene, but I believe that anyway, whatever happens, right, we are God's agents. He's given us free will, and that means he's given us agency. That feeling that I spoke about earlier was because of my own agency, my own free will. It was like the feeling was mine. It was mine. Yeah, I've been given the gift by God to be me. I don't care how you look at that. I don't mind whether you believe or you don't believe. It shows me human beings are important. And let's build a world where that matters. Let's build a world where people are before profit. Let's build a world that brings everybody up, but not by forcing people down. Well, here endeth the sermon for today, said the Colonel. Jolly fine stuff. Well, tell the men that it is church parade, so awfully glad they listened. And tell them, if they want a word with the Padre afterwards, just knock on the vestry door. As a matter of fact, and this is the truth, read the poem Well. Google it. By Army Padre Jeffrey Stoddart Kennedy. The poem is written during World War II. It's just called Well. I've known a few army chaplains in my time. And I've known a few priests in my time. Genuinely good people. Okay, that's it. Here endeth the lesson. Have a great afternoon. If you've listened to this, well, you've listened to me for nearly 15 minutes. It's a bit of a record for me, isn't it? Bye-bye.